Good morning. Hey, thanks for coming out so early. We're very happy to be here. We flew in from the Bay Area, and we got a very nice Austin welcome, so thank you for that. Quickly, I wanted to tell you the format of what we're doing today. We're going to do 45 minutes of us just chatting up here, and then we're going to do 15 minutes of Q&A. And we're really here for you guys, so I hope you submit questions, and I've been told you do it through the app. So I think you find the session on the app, and we'd love to answer all your questions. I just wanted to get a sense of the audience here and what you guys are interested or what you're doing. So how many of us are currently in entertainment, film and TV? Oh, quite a lot of us. Amazing. Okay. And how about gaming? Also a good amount of gaming. And how about entrepreneurs? Okay, great. So we're kind of spread out. That's fantastic. Well, these three amazing founders are going to tell you some stories that will hopefully find interesting and helpful for your own careers and your own thoughts. So let's get started. I thought we would, because this is about gaming and entertainment, I thought we'd do a little icebreaker about what's your favorite movie and what's your favorite game. Very hard to answer, of course. I'll start really briefly. Let's see. My favorite movie is Star Wars. Sorry, I had to do that one. But I saw it 4 times in a row when I was a young kid. And I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and it's always stayed with me. And even when I have kids now, I am still watching Star Wars. And a game, for me, I grew up with 2 parents who are computer scientists. My stepdad was very active in the computer science department in AI, so I had access to the ARPANET. So anyone here is old enough to remember Adventure? That is my favorite game. I mean, the magic of the first time you're told you're in a cave. What do you want to do? You know, and you type in east and you actually go east. Anyway, geeking out, but that's my favorite game. So Patrick, please tell us the same and do a quick intro.
Yeah, hi, I'm Patrick, co-founder of Rotten Tomatoes. Did a number of different startups, a lot of them kind of at the intersection of tech and entertainment. Favorite movie, I would say actually a franchise, the Marvel franchise, especially through Endgame. Just up until then, I don't think I've ever seen a series of movies that have like connected that deeply. When they're doing like the whole Infinity Stone stuff, that was just amazing. As far as favorite game, right now the game I'm playing a lot is Overwatch 2. I just like the PvP aspect of it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Holly. I was co-founder of a mobile gaming company called Kabam. We made games for Marvel, Hobbit, Fast and Furious. I joke around and say if it's a PG-13 Hollywood franchise, we made a game for it. Our most popular one is Marvel Contest of Champions, where you take you take Marvel characters and it's like Street Fighter. So my I have to say current. I have kids right now, so my current favorite film or game is anything we could either do together or something that entertains them. So the favorite film so far has been Frozen 2. I had so many questions after Frozen 1, and I felt Frozen 2 answered a ton of them. And then the favorite game we've been playing right now is called Wordscape. So it's like a word jumble game, and you try to make words out of it. So it's been really fun with the kids.
Hi, everyone. Kun here. I actually immigrated to the US when I was 8. To Texas, so you could say I'm a bit of a Texan at heart. Did my undergrad at Berkeley and a few years of grad school at Carnegie Mellon. Founded a social networking company that was acquired by one of the founders of PayPal, and then ended up, after that, founding Crunchyroll and running that for about a dozen years or so. My favorite game is Chrono Trigger, and maybe that's dating myself a little bit, but the game I probably played most recently that I really liked is Dave the Diver. Check it out. And my favorite piece of content, I would say on the animation side, probably Cowboy Bebop, and then on the live action side, Firefly, which is basically like equivalent to Cowboy Bebop.
Ooh, another sci-fi fan. Can I ask you what you thought of the live-action Cowboy Bebop, or should we stay away from that altogether?
Ooh, tough question.
All right, cool. Well, let's get a little bit into the stories of these founders. I think we'll start with you, Holly. Could you tell us about Kabam and just how you founded it, what happened, kind of the transition from entertainment into gaming? We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. So our journey started in 2006. It was quite some time ago, and it actually didn't start out as a gaming company. We started out as a corporate social network, which was really funny. 2006 was a very different time, particularly in Silicon Valley. There wasn't really any angel investing. The ecosystem was still very, very weak at its time. And we had set off to do corporate social networking. We raised about 500K. Granted, our CEO was a VC before, and that was incredibly helpful. And basically after 8 months, we had about 1,400 registered users, 5 DAUs, which were probably our moms, and then like 20 cease and desist letters from all these lawyers. And we said, maybe this isn't the greatest thing to do. And at that time, I'm dating myself as well. Facebook started just really taking off, and we were like, hey, maybe there's something there. And I think one of the first lessons we've learned there was like, hey, you know what? If the users aren't coming to you, you go to where the users are. So we went there, we launched fan communities for TV shows and sports teams, and that grew quite large to over 60 million registered users. We were able to go on and raise more money off of that, but 2008 recession had hit. It really impacted. We saw $3 million contracts disappear overnight. Our Series B term sheet was taken away. And we were back looking into kind of what should we do, and we ended up going into games because I don't know, I'm sure you guys all heard of Zynga. They were killing it at that time, and we're like, hey, we've been on Facebook for a while, maybe we could do something. So we first launched our original IP called Kingdoms of Camelot. It wasn't copyrighted, so it was cheap for us, inexpensive. We got some art interns, and we started building a strategy game. And then things really shifted, and we can talk about it a bit deeper, but we ended up going into mobile games at that point, where it was just a lot of people were moving off of Facebook. The players weren't there anymore. The place that was growing was mobile games, and so we were able to take our original IP there and then really kind of parlay that into working with some of the largest IPs out there at the time, because the IPs are always looking for ways to kind of extend their IP. And what better way than a game, especially a mobile game, it's 24/7 in your pocket, right? We're there during the most intimate times of their lives. And then I don't know if many know, but we sold in 2017 to a Korean gaming company called Netmarble. And then I ended up going to Y Combinator. So for any entrepreneurs out there, I was there for about 2 years as a visiting partner, looking around and doing a lot of seed stage. But really, some of the things that we've learned in terms of pivoting into moving some of those things was really kind of one, going to where the users were, instead of kind of if we couldn't get them to come to us. IP was just a way to extend the base of that really well. And it was also a way for us to get users cheaper in many ways, because it became really expensive for us to kind of move around. And then I think as an entrepreneur, for those entrepreneurs in the crowd, just really thinking about, when the market does change, because your whole thing is, this is what making something that people want has been really, I've always tell entrepreneurs, you can make anything, you're so smart, so brilliant, and entirely talented, but will people want it? And I think that's when we talk about market and when things kind of change and really kind of look at that. So those are kind of some of the general lessons that we've definitely taken kind of along the way, and happy to double click a little bit more later on all of them.
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up question. So I would guess that people in the audience probably have their own IPs, are developing their own stories and characters. And it's really interesting that you guys started, obviously, with something in the public domain. And you must have had some success there. And then, of course, all the big brands came in. For those people in the audience, do you have any advice on what to do with their existing IP?
Like an original IP.
Yeah, their own original.
Yeah. So I think the biggest advice currently, even right now, is to try to build an audience for your IP, wherever that may be, right? Because then it could easily parlay into a game, into a book, into all these other things. And I would probably say try to find the cheapest version of getting your audience. So a game is very expensive, a TV show is very expensive, and it's very dependent on somebody else to say, yeah, your IP is good, because they're gonna invest money into you, or the studio's gonna invest into you. And I'm pretty sure you have a lot of good stories about this, of like which IP to greenlight. And they wanna know, hey, is there gonna be an audience for this thing? So if you have a bunch of, like if this IP can grow on Instagram or Twitter, or even some type of waitlist, and if it's sitting in the form of, maybe a film or something a little bit like, I wouldn't say cheaper, but like a lower cost to do, I think that is a great way to try to find like people who will be supportive of your IP.
Great. Really helpful. Thank you, Holly. Patrick, you want to tell us about Rotten Tomatoes and the juggernaut that it's become? I think a lot of people probably don't know how the company got started, and we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. So prior to Rotten Tomatoes, this is like in the mid to late 90s, we actually had a design firm, and we did a lot of work for the entertainment industry. We were doing a lot of stuff for Disney Channel, ABC, Warner Brothers, Artisan, MTV, VH1, et cetera. And actually, during that time, we were touching gaming a bit because we were essentially the lead developer for Disney Channel Online at the time, and we made like 50 Flash and Shockwave games for them, and we actually ended up making the online game, the Flash game for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for ABC. While we were doing all this stuff, our creative director, Sen Duong, had the idea for Rotten Tomatoes. He was a huge Jackie Chan fan, and he wanted to know what everyone was saying about Rush Hour when it came out, because that was like Jackie's first like really big Hollywood movie. And so he went to the library, he gathered reviews there, magazines, newspapers, he wrote them, the quotes down, then he went back and he was like, hey, if I'm gathering all this info, I might as well make a site and put it up there and share it with other people. He put it up, it like essentially instantly started having people using it. And we were hosting it within that first year. Netscape and Yahoo featured it. USA Today featured it. Roger Ebert wrote a magazine article where he picked his favorite movie websites. Rotten Tomatoes was one of them. And when Pixar released A Bug's Life, we saw a spike in traffic. And when we looked up the IP, it was actually coming from Pixar. So we were like, hey, if Pixar's using this, if Roger Ebert's using this, like maybe there's something there. And so we went, raised a little bit of money, and decided to run it as a company. This was January 2000. 2 months later, the internet stock bubble burst. So kind of similar to the stuff that happened with Holly. It was a weird time. We had transitioned a lot of our people from our design firm, and within a year, we had to go from 25 people that we transitioned over to 7 just to like not die.
Wow. Yeah. Those are the stories you don't hear about. Amazing. So what I love about that is just it was a guy who had an idea and he went to the library and he's, gathering information and just put it up online. So I think that's really inspirational.
The thing that was really cool in his case was from the idea to actually putting it out there was 2 weeks. And he was our creative director. He wasn't a coder, so he actually built everything static HTML. He didn't go and build everything. He just featured the movies, the wide release movies that were coming out that week only, which is like 3 or 4 movies. So he didn't have to go out and be like, hey, let's go and make info on 10,000 movies. Actually, those 3 or 4 movies are the movies that people care about the most for that week. So yeah, that's how he was able to do it.
So sometimes done is better than perfect, actually is meaningful. Amazing. Okay, and how about after that, you got into gaming then? Like, how did that whole experience, which sounds like it was quite a roller coaster ride, how did that lead you into your gaming?
So with all my companies, basically, I'd always do it with friends. Pretty much friends I met in college, freshman year of college for most of them. And it was always doing something that I was interested in, which is why so many of them were kind of intersection of tech and entertainment. So after we sold Rotten Tomatoes, I actually did a couple other startups. But then eventually when I made my way back to the Bay Area, I had a friend that I had done my first company with, and we both loved playing video games growing up and in college and everything. And one night we were all hanging out, and he was like, "Why do we make a game?" And
Were there drinks involved?
there was a lot of drinks involved, and basically the next day I call him and I'm like, "Hey, were you serious about that? Like, do you want to make a game?" He's like, "Sure." And so we decided to do it. He was also a successful entrepreneur. He had a big exit, and so we just went to his VC and said, "Hey, this is what we want to do, and we want to make a game," which isn't like the easiest thing to do, but they're like, "Sure," and they actually put in money to do it. And so then we started working on a game. We ended up deciding to do a mobile game because we felt like that was something that was cheaper and faster to do than trying to make like a console or PC game. And then we basically did everything wrong that you can do. We were eventually able to get the game out, but it didn't really work. But we spent like 5 years, $5 million trying to do that. So it was a good learning experience.
What was the one lesson from the failures you'd want to pass on in terms of maybe why it didn't work out?
The biggest lesson I learned, which might be different from what other people know, is when we started, we had like a very rough idea, and then we're like, let's hire a team of great people. And then we're like, okay, now what do we build? But the problem is, once we did that, we kind of ended up with like too many cooks in the kitchen from day one, and everyone had different ideas, and trying to like get to the point of making something, it was always, trying to get consensus and all that kind of stuff. What I realized at the end when we had kind of failed was it's actually a lot like a movie. And with a movie, you start with a script, and you want to start with a good script. And then once you have that in place, then you'll be like, okay, what director should we attach? What actors should we attach, right? Because the directors and actors and everyone else you attach depends on the movie. If you're doing, like if you have one director, like a Sam Raimi, is going to give you something very different from a Christopher Nolan or whatever, right? And so our problem is once we had a team in place, they have certain art styles or games they like or whatever, and so it made it very difficult. I think if we had actually sat down, my co-founder and I, and if it took 3 months, 6 months, a year, and actually lay out exactly what we want to make, and then everyone we hired is like, this is what we're trying to make sure they fit that, make sure that that's the game they want to make, I think we would have had a much easier time and would have been much faster. Like once you build a team, it's very expensive to go from there. So, yeah.
I would just add to that because we met during the time you were building gaming, and we were still in games, and just the context of the landscape had changed a lot too. Because for us, we would launch a game on Facebook every 3 months, and we could have launched every day if we wanted to, and it was just a hose of people, and therefore we could go a little bit faster. But by the time you guys had entered, mobile gaming actually was quite costly. And I remember we told them, we said save $5 million just for marketing costs alone, because it had changed so quickly. So if you are building a gaming company right now, the people costs are going to be your highest cost. So if you can figure out ways to kind of sort that out before, and you're exactly right, nowadays making an RPG versus an MMORPG or a turn-based strategy game, there are people who are like deeply crafted in that. You can't take an RPG person and put them in a racing game. Like those two are it's really hard. They're not as interchangeable. So I just want to comment.
And I would add that marketing spend dominates user acquisition, whether it's streaming, whether it's gaming these days. And because of the higher hurdle in mobile platforms, nowadays you have game companies or even content companies that they don't build the game first. They don't make the show first. They'll just make a marketing asset and they'll throw it out there and they'll see, oh, did this thing get a lot of clicks? Is it efficient? Is this concept interesting? And then if they get the data, then they'll be like, oh, okay, people really love clicking on this castle theme, but we're adding some ninjas. Okay, cool. We'll make a game about castles with ninjas. Like so now it's actually much smarter, right? Because you don't have to put in $5 million to hope or guess if people will like it. You can put a little bit of marketing spend, test with assets, maybe throw it to like a community or social, and just see how people would respond.
Yeah, that's great. And that does get back to the whole community aspect. And if you guys are trying to build communities out there, really making sure you get feedback because it's so valuable. It's like user testing, which you guys know about. Okay, Koen, you're up. Crunchyroll needs no intro, but tell us about how you founded that, or your story. And I know you're doing some really interesting things in gaming right now, so we'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So a lot to unpack. I guess maybe to set the context first, I did my undergrad at Berkeley from 2000 to 2004, and back then, at least at Berkeley, entrepreneurship wasn't really like a well-traveled path. Everyone either wanted to go into academia, which is what I did, or you go work at Microsoft because that was like very prestigious, or Oracle, and I had the good fortune before I went to grad school to work with the founders of Hot or Not. They had a summer internship program. And if you guys don't know Hot or Not, it's basically a Web 1.0 Tinder. Like you rate people from 1 to 10, and then you can like send them a virtual flower and something like that. So anyway, worked with them and learned a lot over the summer internship. I think the most important thing was just put something out there, iterate quickly, put something out there, and just see if people will use it. And that was like a big unlock for me, was that, okay, you didn't have to go into industry, you didn't have to go into academia, you can just build something and put it out there and see if people like it. So I think that's when kind of the entrepreneurship bug basically bit me, and I still went to grad school, but after about a year and a half, I was just not really super excited about what I was doing in academia, but really excited about what I wanted to do in entrepreneur. So I started building my first company in grad school, which was a social network platform. But the success of that just emboldened me to build more, which was Crunchyroll. When I moved back to the Bay Area, got together with a bunch of my friends from Berkeley days, and we just started building. We didn't know what we wanted to build, but we knew that if we just threw enough stuff out there, something's going to stick, and then we'll just swarm around what worked. So initially, we built like a deal website. We built like a instant domain search. We built a bunch of random crap. And anime was one of those things where every night or every week we would come home and we would stream Naruto, right? It was coming out on TV in Japan, and back then you couldn't really stream. So you had to actually go on a torrent website and like download the torrent, but then it takes forever because you have to upload while you're downloading because it needs to like get the ratios right and all that. And so anyway, we were like, this sucks. Like, this is a terrible user experience. Why can't you just click a button and start streaming? At that time, YouTube was launched and they were starting to take off. And we thought, well, like, this is the ideal experience. You can just have a streaming website and people can just go there and click a button and they can watch all the anime they wanted. And so that's kind of how the Crunchyroll idea started. We built the website in like a month. We put it out there. We shared it with our friends. And at the time, when they started sharing, it became viral. Everyone started uploading their own anime content, which was torrented somewhere or in their personal collection. And we were just engineers at the time. We had no idea what DMCA was or copyright. We're like, oh, someone's sending us a letter. Oh, wait, this is not a nice letter. What do we do about it?
Spam.
Yeah, okay. So then, and we're like looking it up. What does infringement mean? So long story short, the site really took off. We raised VC funding, and we realized we really need to figure out how to license this content. So that's when I got on a plane to Japan. No one on the team spoke Japanese, so we're like, what do we do? Well, like we didn't know what to do, and so we were just naive about it, which is Well, we know that the anime titles are in Japan somewhere, so we just go to Japan and like figure it out, right? So ask a friend, oh, do you work in Japan? No, okay, ask someone else. Oh, you work in Japan before, okay. Okay, well, if we go there, can you introduce us to someone you know who might be in entertainment? And anyway, after a few hops of that, we started connecting with the licensors and the rights publishers. And from that point on, it was just continuing to pester them. Like, they knew about us, but copyright and licensing wasn't a thing, because at that time, there wasn't a thing called digital license. Like, there wasn't a digital right to give to us, because the rights were kind of pretty well like allocated. It was like, are you making a toy? Are you making a home video? Are you making like a T-shirt? But there wasn't like, oh, just digital rights, here you go. So we had to like work with them to write the legal agreement, what digital right or streaming right actually means, and then they started working that into their agreements. And we were, really fortunate that one of the licensors, TV Tokyo, was extremely progressive about it. Coincidentally, at the time, Naruto actually was kicked off air on Cartoon Network, and they were scratching their heads about, well, how do I reach a U.S. and a global audience with this property when there really wasn't a strong outlet for it. And so we were, in the right place, right time. We were able to secure the Naruto license, and I think that's kind of where things, took off.
Wow. Okay, so a couple of things I heard. The first is you actually had this idea because you ran into a problem. And they talk about sometimes companies are formed because there's a problem and you come up with a solution. And that just so happened to be true. And that at the same time, there was a big demand for Japanese content in the US. So that's really great. And then you just hopped on a plane, which is amazing. So did they let you keep illegally streaming as you were working on the legal contract?
Well, we tried. We were like, hey, let us have our cake and eat it too. They were like, no. Either you're clean or you're not clean. There's no gray. We don't want our clean licensed property sitting next to like who knows what.
Yeah.
And so like this is the only path forward. And there, this kind of dovetail into maybe the conversation about community.
Yeah.
But we basically had a date where we're like, okay, at this date, we will remove everything that's user uploaded and move over to only licensed content. And at that time, we had millions of users and I don't know, like maybe hundreds to thousands of shows, because there were shows that we had at that time that still is not licensed today, because I don't know, it's a show from the 80s or the 90s, before the period of digital rights, or the licensor might have changed, or all this complexity, who knows who has the rights, or it's costly to go back and chase. And so we had basically everything. And then we basically had to like turn all that off, and then New Year's Eve 2009, like delete everything essentially from our website, and then upload like 30 shows, and fingers crossed, hope that people just don't all disappear.
We didn't notice.
Yeah, right. And we're like, oh, all right, let's all take a bunch of shots, and then press the button, and then we'll wake up tomorrow and see what happens.
And then, like, what kind of impact? What happened? Like, did they drop in user base, and you had to
Well, they did, and we had to go back and reacquire a bunch of users. But I think one of the things that was really unique about Crunchyroll was very early on, we made a big investment in community. We said, this is a really passionate community. They really love anime. They want to talk to each other about anime. Like, we want to talk to them about anime, and also what we're doing. And so very early on when we started the service, we would we had forums. This was before chat and Discord. So we set up our own forums on our website, and then we just started engaging our community. We said every week, okay, here's the updates. We added more servers, yay! Or we fixed this button, or whatever, right? And so over time, we built a lot of trust with the community that we were engaging with them, and we had the best intentions, and we wanted to make this a better and better place every day. And when we secured the Naruto license and we knew kind of what was that cutoff point, we went to them, and we went to our community, and we told them, hey, look, like, tomorrow's gonna suck, or like a week from now it's gonna suck. Like, we need to everything is going to disappear, but we have these official shows. And the reason for doing this is the only path forward. If you support anime, if you support the creators, this is the place to subscribe to watch. And also, your money will go directly back to the creators. And enough of our community really resonated with that message, and especially the ones who were really core, they stuck around. And then from that point on, there's no looking back.
I just wanted to jump in. Actually, when we were doing Rotten Tomatoes, there was a lot of folks who were into Slam Dunk, and back then we were doing the torrenting of the fan subs once a week, and we'd all gather around one person's computer to watch it. And during that time, my friends got me into Naruto, other things like that. And at that time, it was very hard to find legal content, pretty much impossible. I was actually paying for an illegal service called Naruto Fan at the same time as I was using Crunchyroll, because I'm just I want to watch it. I actually want to pay. I just don't know how. And then eventually, when you all went legal, I mean, I've been subscribed ever since. I use Crunchyroll more than I use Rotten Tomatoes.
It's interesting also in your story for us, when you were what was our passion points and starting to build around kind of a problem. As I mentioned, we did corporate social networking, so it wasn't we were huge fans. We weren't even using our own service. And the thing is on Monday nights, we would rush home to watch this show called 24. I don't know if you guys remember that show, but for those who aren't young enough, old enough, it was about a spy named Jack Bauer, and every episode was 1 hour of his mission. And so it was we're we got to go home, and that's what kind of inspired our fan communities for TV shows and sports teams, because we're well, first it was TV shows, because we're we're gonna run home and do this, and we're gonna figure this out. And we might have gotten some cease and desist letters too for our fan communities.
Where did your fan communities live, Holly?
Ours lived on Facebook. So we took the strategy of making an application per TV show. So it was addicted to The Simpsons. So if you're a big Simpsons fan, you would join that particular thing. I don't know if anime operated as I'm a huge anime fan because it was just small enough. But because in the US, TV was so big. And for us, you could find some forums online. MySpace was more about music. There was one around movies called Flickster that was a little bit kind of like MySpace, but for movies. But for TV at the time, there really wasn't anything. And one of the best things was that on Facebook, they had Facebook groups. So we could go into those groups, and they were already chatting. There was already somebody talking about it. And we're hey, don't you want to put your favorite quote or your favorite picture from, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy on your profile? And people are yeah, I'd love that. And then they would go into in our application, you could post quotes, photos. The one that actually would melt our servers was our trivia game, which was quite addicting, I would say, in many ways, because people just get into a flow of answering these questions. And then fans are crazy. They started competing. We started turning on a leaderboard, and they started competing with one another on just trivia questions. And then we'd even start, I don't know if you did this, but recruiting people from the community to be the officers, right? Which is a very...
That's amazing. The pre-moderator. How about you, Patrick? And Rotten Tomatoes, clearly communities played a big part there, but what was the sort of the pathway to user reviews and things like that? How did communities really help your company?
Right. So when we ran Rotten Tomatoes, we actually did have forums as well.
Where did they live?
I think it was vBulletin, but yeah, we had it on our site. We had major categories, just general film, et cetera. We had one for, I believe, every film, every actor, every director. Some would have no traffic. Some would sometimes be hijacked, where people would just go into a actor that wasn't popular and just turn it into their own forum. But for the big ones, I remember if there was a movie that was very divisive, or mixed opinions, or what happened at the end. So I think it was Star Wars Phantom Menace, there was a lot of discussion, and a ton, a crazy amount for when Christopher Nolan had Memento, and everyone's trying to discuss the ending, and it was just so much traffic. And I think we even had people meeting up that we didn't go to, but people would meet up from meeting each other on the forums. I think we had some people get married. Right? And so, yeah, so communities were a huge part of it. People were debating film a lot. And then later on, when we were doing, we initially started with critics reviews, just official professional critics. But later on, we're like, we should let users also review. So we built all the tech that allowed critics to review. We're just like, let's turn it on for users. And we actually had kind of created a very simple social network at the time. We saw MySpace, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. And so we created, it was called the Vine. And the idea is like, if everyone is a tomato, then the Vine kind of connects everyone together. And that's when we allowed for user reviews. So during that time, there would be 3 scores. There was the critic score, all users, and then your friends. But then, once it's sold and it kind of passed hands, the later owners turn off the forums. They turn off the social networking part. And so it's really just critics reviews and user reviews now.
Nice, perfect. Well, let's move beyond communities and talk a little bit about the interconnectedness of entertainment and gaming today, because there's a lot of connection now, especially as compared to, a decade ago, in terms of movies becoming films, games, movies becoming games and vice versa. What's your experience and thoughts there? Anyone?
Oh, I definitely have some thoughts. So what was very interesting, we did our Marvel game, I want to say 2016, maybe 15. And the interesting thing at that time was Marvel, they're a phenomenal licensing house. They know how to cut things up, and they go every which way. And they wanted to reboot the series Contest of Champions. And the most interesting thing is they came to us, and we ended up creating a new character for that world called Guillotine. She was this French woman her dead father spoke through this special sword. I know it sounds weird when I say it, but and I was just kind of blown away because it was one of our artists in Vancouver who created it, and it was like, to me, a real big fundamental shift in like where IP source was coming from, because traditionally it came from the comic books, from the creator itself, from the studio, and then it would go into a movie, and if the movie does really well, it can go into a TV show, and then if that does really well, it becomes a toy and a cereal, and then maybe a game is really thought about. Like, it's IP only kind of went one way, and I was just really struck and blown away by the idea that the source of IP could come from a gaming studio. And then fast forward to today, there's so much like Super Mario Brothers, right? That was just such a beloved franchise, which we first experienced via game, and now has become like a movie in many ways. So the source of IP has really become very intermixed on many different fronts in terms of where fans have kind of supported ones, or it can come from almost, I want to say almost anywhere, but there's still a lot of structures in place that I think is a little bit difficult on it. But you hear the term transmedia. So I certainly can see a world where IP, games itself, like if it starts out as a game, they're looking for more players and they're looking for more people. Like Last of Us is a really good example where it went much wider. And then on the flip side, IP is looking for a way to continue building that relationship with their fan, right? Because they just get it for a couple of hours, either through a movie, TV, book, and then it's over. But games can last, honestly, forever, in my mind, if you want to keep on if somebody wants to keep on operating and keep on going. So I certainly see just that mix of like, where is this IP coming from and where is it going to be sourced from? And then you throw in AI and how that's lowering the barrier of creating a game, because it's incredibly expensive to create a game, that soon I think IP will be able to come from, a fan, a creator. It might become like a YouTube. I guess you're already seeing it with Roblox in many ways, right? These Roblox creators are able to build these massive games and IP.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was interesting to note is a long time ago, when there's been many attempts at converting games into TV and film, and 20 years ago or whatever, they weren't good. Like the Super Mario Brothers movie wasn't the first attempt. There was a Bob Hoskins version with like John Leguizamo or whatever.
Maybe because Jack Black wasn't singing
And
Peaches.
It was bad. You know, there was Final Fantasy, I think. Ming-Na Wen looked gorgeous, but just made no sense. It wasn't really Final Fantasy the game. So they had a lot of trouble back then converting, and I think the big difference now is they're
Mortal
making.
Kombat too.
Well, Mortal Kombat was okay, a cult classic. But yeah, and then they kind of rebooted that. But like, yeah, Street Fighter back then, not so good. But now they're making good shows, good movies, a lot of them, and they're making them like really, really high budgets. So that I think has been very interesting in terms of like the crossover between two. You see a lot of movies that become games, and some of those can do really well. But I think until recently, I felt like games were not converting well into movies.
Yeah, and I
You think it's because there wasn't enough resources or budget behind it?
Resources, budget, special effects, everything about it, and staying more true to the actual stories.
So Street Fighter, I would say, is a cult classic. For example, might be the most important day in your life. For me, it was a Tuesday. I don't know if anyone got that reference. But I think anime in Japan probably has been more ahead of the time with respect to transmedia, partially because maybe by design, the only way to distribute anime up until streaming was it has to be on TV, and TV is not cheap; it's expensive. So you have to figure out how to make money to cover the cost of making it and putting it on TV. And so the only thing you can do with TV is advertise effectively, right? So what do you advertise? So anime has always had to think about what is the business beyond the anime. And so is it merchandising? Is it a game? Like those are all things that they have to think about first before they embark on creating the content. Or is it just like physical sales of the show? So I would say today I think the success is coming from the fact that back then, maybe because a game has commercial success, then they're thinking, well, let's just like figure out how to get this everywhere. But then they didn't think about, okay, well, who are the actual fans or the creators who are going to tell this story in this other format? And nowadays, I think you're seeing creators who grew up with those IPs, who love and live those IPs themselves, and they themselves are so passionate and they're fans themselves and they want to tell that story and they can imagine what that story is, whereas before it was maybe more of a commercial exercise. Wow, this game does so well. Clearly we'll put some money in and someone's going to make something good and then it'll make a lot in the theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think too, having worked in Hollywood for many years, there's a greater degree of respect for games and gaming. And that's from probably a business point of view. We see it as like fans. Of course, gaming is amazing, but like it's blown past the entertainment industry. So now everyone in Hollywood's like, oh, we got to wake up and we got to put good talent behind it. Okay, I want to get to your guys' questions. So last quick question, what are you excited about today in terms of going forward?
Sure. So after Crunchyroll, actually this was in 2000. Was hoping to do some travel. Didn't happen in 2000 for some reason, but ended up stuck at home. Played online games with friends, and we got beat up on by a bunch of 12-year-olds, and we're like, oh, they're being really toxic. And we decided to start a company in the AI space that tackles toxicity. And what we're doing is we're building and providing tools for communities, for game publishers to make a more positive community and gaming experience for them. So I think for me, it ties a lot into especially how I started with anime and community, and then now it's in the gaming space, but with community as well.
As for me, right now, I'm working on something where we're essentially assembling the Avengers. We're trying to get the best, it's like a hand-picked, super curated community of the best builders, creators, and talent around fandom. Right now, we are not public-facing, but we are excited to announce something at the end of the summer.
Ooh, can't wait. And Holly, that's something you're involved in as well, right?
Well, I've been working with Patrick.
Nice.
I know what he's doing, so it's been pretty exciting.
Great. Okay, I see some really good questions up here. I hope we can get to, so we have about 15. Okay, this is someone, it looks like, who is wanting to develop a game. So the question is, what are the top 5 critical skills a founding team needs to develop a game? Who wants to take that?
I can start. So one of the things I learned in gaming is that if you think content is hit-driven, like gaming is even more hit-driven. But the good news is that in gaming, anyone can make a game. That's not the case for anime. Like it costs millions of dollars to make anime. So if you want to make anime, normal people can't. But in gaming, you can. And I think that that trend has actually been accelerating. You have really small studios, maybe 1 or 2 person teams that have created amazing hit games like the Power Worlds, like the Among Us's. And I think that's really incredible. And the way they've done it, I think is actually quite similar to how, at least I think about general entertainment, which is, if you look at movies, there's actually a life cycle to how movies are developed in terms of IP, in terms of genre, in terms of, so for example, you have one movie come out that's like the first zombie movie, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's a new concept, it's zombies. Then the next movie comes out will be, okay, what is the version of the perfect zombie movie with the best production budget? And after that, when people get sick enough of zombies, then it'll be, okay, what if the zombies ran really fast? Or if they're actually human? Like, there's like twists and spins on that. And so I think you see that a lot in gaming as well, which is, a hit game will come out, and then there'll be a perfect version of it, and then fans will start remixing that game. For example, Riot Games built on essentially Dota, Defense of the Ancients, which was started from a mod of Warcraft 3. So that, I think, is incredible. And so what that means is, as a person who's building in gaming, you can do that with 1 or 2 person teams, pick up what you think is the next interesting spin, if you will, something that you personally will be excited to play, and you can build that in the frame of the existing game if you wanted to as a mod, just to see if people want to like try it out. And if it's successful, then you can kind of take additional steps. The hurdle to starting and building a game, I think, is much lower than it's ever been.
I don't know. I might beg to differ a little bit on that one. I think I agree. A hit can really come from anywhere. In terms of creating like anybody creating a game, I definitely think there's some skill sets that are needed on the team, like a game designer. Certainly thinking about distribution of like, where is this game gonna live, and like, how are you gonna acquire the users? Like, if you're gonna do it on Steam, if you're gonna do it elsewhere. You are right, there are examples like Mojang, who did Minecraft. I guess Pal World, though, had deep experience. Or were they from Nexon? They're a studio already. They had deep experience from there before. This is more, my comment is a little bit more from, we had no game experience when we did it, and we really benefited from growing platforms that were looking for content. And you're absolutely right. It was 100% hits driven. And so if I could get it distributed, then in some ways, the quality of content could be a lot lower, but now I look and I'm like, where would I put it? I could put it onto Steam, I could put it on the Apple Store, but there's like hundreds of more competition that it's just harder to make it successful. You can do it, but it's just harder. So I think, yeah, you need a game designer. You certainly need like some thinking about where do you want to market it, for sure, and like, what is your strategy, and then what is your take on whatever this remixing that you want to do in many ways. So there is, I would just slightly disagree a little bit.
Yeah, I would add that I think distribution has changed significantly in the last 5 or 10 years. So before, you package or you put it on Steam and you're kind of done. Now it's like, well, how do you engage on social? How do you build a community on Discord? How do you live stream it? There's actually more avenues for doing that, which is more accessible as individuals. So yeah, so maybe founding team should include someone who has social marketing experience.
Yeah, I think the last thing I would just add is focus. I feel like try not to pack in too many features. Keep it really simple. Keep it something that you can launch quickly. You can iterate quickly, and ideally try to find the fun as early as possible. And then if you can get those things going, then figuring out distribution, monetization, all those things are super critical. But that ability to go out and find something that people actually want to play is probably the most critical.
Great. Okay, there's a couple questions here on the future, which I'll save for a minute, because I like this question about UGC. So the question is, can you comment on how UGC has had an impact on the way new games, movies, and media have impacted marketing decisions? So staying on the marketing track, what is your guys' experience with UGC, and how has it helped or changed?
I think for the like any media, movies, or any type of launch, they can now go straight to the community, and there's no intermediary in some ways. I mean, we've definitely used some agencies in the past, but it gets kind of awkward, and it's a lot of work because you're like, you want to bring your authentic self. They don't like working with a go-between, but it certainly has impacted a lot of marketing decisions. Like just from the outside, you could see the Barbie movie and how they marketed it in the middle of a strike, and they recruited everybody on Instagram, a couple of influencers, not everybody, influencers, got them to dress up as pink and post. And it was very clever because those people aren't part of the strike. They're free to talk about it. So certainly being able to do that. Reddit is one of the largest communities that is UGC, and this is just more of a commentary in general. Many founders will go there and look for a community and try to build a solution for them and work with them to figure out if this solution makes sense for them. So absolutely, I've definitely, Barbie's an example of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, when during the Rotten Tomatoes days, like pre-Rotten Tomatoes, pretty much the only information you had on like a film was watching the trailer or reading your local reviewer or I guess Siskel and Ebert. And so things like Rotten Tomatoes, but also social media, which is like UGC, for anyone to go out and talk about it is completely changed stuff, because now you can get a lot more opinions, not just what you saw on the trailer, et cetera. And so I think that's had a huge impact. I know with Rotten Tomatoes, studios would take that into account when they're thinking about releasing the movie and marketing it. A lot of times, if they know the movie is terrible, they will actually embargo and stop critics from putting out reviews too early until the movie actually comes out. But once it's out, the critics will have reviews, the users will have reviews, the social media will blow up. And now there's like, that part of it is just as big or bigger than any individual score or review.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, will the rise of, quote, games as a platform drive a shift in strategy among major media companies?
I think you're already seeing that with Fortnite and how they had
Disney.
and Disney as well. Yeah, they have a collab with Disney, but it's Travis, who is the person that did that big concert inside of Fortnite. Thank you. Yeah, so that is a huge example. Roblox, huge brand. Once you see brand activations happening inside the games platform, absolutely. So I'm like, if your platform's successful, then the media companies will certainly come after.
It's already there. Games are as big as the largest social platforms, except engagement's different. And media companies are always looking to engage with audience, and they do it on wherever the audience is, regardless of platform. Now, gaming is a little bit more difficult, so it's not just, okay, what is the asset, what is the voice? They have to figure out what is the actual game or the engagement. But I think you're going to see a lot more mixing of experiences across different platforms. And I think what media companies have to think about is, like, how do you extend your IP across many different platforms? And IP is, amorphous, if you will, but it does mean you have to spend more time doing universe building. For example, part of your IP might not work in certain games. Like maybe what you preserve canonically on big screen is not what you put out in like TV show or what you put out in a game, but you still want it to all be interconnected enough that someone who likes one wants more can go to different platforms and build, and engage more with your IP.
Yeah, I think it's also a commentary that your audience has become a bit more fragmented over time. Back in our day, it was user acquisition that was the top thing. And that's just, you just stick up an ad and you purchase. And even then, the big ad format change was a playable ad. And you could go in and play it. But now, you're right, this whole interconnectedness of like, when I read the comic, or the graphic novel, American Born Chinese, when I watch it on the TV show, and then if there's a game, like what's that entire experience? Because the fan will kind of probably go through different different ways.
I think the other thing you'll see is more crossing of IP. You know, the Ready Player One kind of vision where everyone's there and they're all mixing, or like a Wreck-It Ralph, or Mortal Kombat, Super Smash Brothers, Kingdom Hearts, right? Where you're seeing these different IPs blend together into the same world. I think you're going to see a lot of that when these games get huge. You're going to see other IPs coming in and mixing to reach those fans and show them something else.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that gets to this next question about the future, and we should touch a little bit on AI as well, because you can't talk about the future without talking about AI. But the question is, how do you see the future of gaming with upcoming new techs like AI that allow almost everyone to create high-quality output and blockchain that solves trusts? Great question.
At a very high level, the way I see things is when you're trying to make something for users, almost everything comes down to time and money. Like Rotten Tomatoes, we save you time and money from not seeing a bad movie, right? AI is time and blockchain is money, right? Like, and you think about the major use cases of each one, almost anything you think about blockchain-wise, most of it comes back to money. And AI, almost every use case that is existing now or probably will exist soon is all about saving time. I think with gaming, same thing. Like, yes, if the AI can allow you, one person, to go out and make a much better game that would normally have taken 20 people or 30 people to do, and or blockchain that can allow you to monetize it in a new way, like, yes, for sure, both of those are going to have major effects on not just gaming, but everything. Yeah, but that's the way I would think about it from a high-level view, is think about it as time and money.
I also think it's funny enough, because we just had a run-up with blockchain, Web3 in 2021, and yes, the crypto is, or Bitcoin's pumping along with ETH. But the interesting thing about that technology, because the questions around like that solve trust, is, you know, somebody had mentioned, I was like, oh, with the proliferation of all this AI, you don't know what's AI generated, what's first, especially even copyright. And this person made an interesting comment, because they were trying to put like dance moves on the blockchain. And he's like, yeah, because then you can say this, we copywriting this, like we got here first. And I thought that was an interesting solution of blending the two, because it's like, you're right, you don't know which is which, or who owns this IP or this creation, whatever it is, that the blockchain can really help solve that. But then there has to be an agreement from society and from the legal structures that this is the ultimate ledger that will say, okay, this is the truth of what it is. So, but I think that there could be something very interesting there.
I think AI is going to give more creators the ability to create their vision in a way that is out of reach for them today. So take example of anime. Unless you can draw really well, you can't make anime yourself. Or if you need a lot of money to be able to actually get people to draw your vision. But AI is able to, hopefully soon, give anyone the ability to create high quality anime, for example, or high quality content. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone will be a great anime creator or great content creator, in the same way that we all have access to YouTube. We can all make shorts on TikTok. Doesn't mean every one of us is going to be a good creator for that medium, but it means that people who potentially have that opportunity and don't have the capability will be able to make something new and compelling and interesting. I think blockchain is incredibly powerful, but I don't think we're there yet. And the reason I believe that is because every major revolution or evolution, if you will, in gaming or in content has been a change in platform or business model. Platform being because of the internet, because of mobile, business model is advertising, subscription, free to play. And I think blockchain is a potential new business model for how we think about content and gaming.
One other thing I wanted to jump in with is everyone thinks about AI being like, oh, one person can make something very easily at a much higher quality than before. But I think the flip side is also potentially in the future, everything can be personalized for one person. Like that game you're playing, that TV show you're watching, that movie you're watching, like maybe you're the main character. And they can just adjust it so that you're watching yourself on
The Matrix?
Yeah, the Matrix. Yeah, that gets back to kind of AI NPCs, which is a huge push right now. We are out of time. These guys were incredible. Thank you for sharing your stories. Give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.